Yo, peace to the 12, man. I was gonna put doing this video off for a couple more days because I have an abscess on my tooth, which is a bacterial infection in my mouth. So if I sound a little different, that's what it is. But man, I had to do what I gotta do. So anyway, y'all see the title, man. Buddha is Nimrod in the Bible. Now I'm gonna explain that in this video, right? And for those that don't know, Nimrod, he is many of these false pagan gods. Believe it or not, because Nimrod once ruled the world, and Nimrod was an Ethiopian man, right? And I'm gonna add this to a playlist that I plan on doing about Nimrod and all the pagan gods that he represents. But anyway, who is Nimrod? Well, you let the so-called white man tell you who Nimrod is. They'll tell you he looked like this. Dude looks like a mountain man on the show Survivor or something, right? That if you think Nimrod is this, but this is simply just more so-called white lies, right? Because Nimrod is the son of Cush. Nimrod was an Ethiopian. Yet they paint this guy like they say Nimrod look like this. You know why they do this? Because like I told you guys before in several of my videos, they want to be everybody in history, right? That's what they always do. But the video ain't about yahawah. So let's get into it, right? Let's go into Nimrod and let's prove that he was a so-called black man. He was an Ethiopian man, to be specific. Well, let's go into Nimrod. So Nimrod pops up in the Bible in Genesis, the 10th chapter. Right? And we're going to read it. Genesis 10 and 8. And Cush begat Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth. Right? He was a mighty hunter before the Lord Yahawah. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord Yahawah. Right? So Nimrod was the son of Cush, and he was a mighty one on the earth, right? He was the first world ruler, right? He took over the known world at the time, right? And Cush, because his Cush was comes from Ham. So Nimrod is the son of Cush, and Cush is the son of Ham. Genesis 10 and 6. And the sons of Ham, Cush, and Mizraim, and Phut, and Canaan, right? So when you look up this word Kush, it goes back to Ethiopia. Ethiopians. Kush equals black. Right? You also had Israelites named Cush as well. And Cushi. Zephaniah the prophet. The book of Zephaniah. Zephaniah's father's name was Cushi, which goes back to Cush. Makes you wonder, right? And also there was a Benjamite in Psalms, the 7th chapter, who was also named Cush. Right? So you would ask this question, why are there Israelites named after Cush, which means black? I already know the answer to that. I did a video on it. Y'all can go watch it, called The Black Sons of God. But anyway, so with all that being said, Cush comes from Ham. Nimrod comes from Cush. Right? Now, we're going to go to this Eastern Bible Dictionary. And this isn't going to be a whole big video on Nimrod and his history. I'm going to do a whole nother video on that. This is going to be Nimrod and how he took over the Indian continent, as well as not Indian continent, Indian country, or Indian region, Indus region. And he took over many other places as well. He took over the whole East, right? And we're going to go to this Eastern Bible Dictionary. We're going to go to the highlighted portion, right? I'll read this too. Eastern Bible Dictionary. Cush, black son, a son, probably the eldest of Ham, and the father of Nimrod, right? From the land of Cush seems to have derived its name. Now we're going to go down to here. It says black also. Cush means black. But it says, it was the country now known to us as Nubia and Abyssinia, right? In ancient Egyptian inscriptions, Ethiopia is termed Kesh. The Kushites appear to have spread along extensive tracts stretching from the upper Nile to the Euphrates and Tigris, right? So the upper Nile to the Euphrates and Tigris, meaning in the Sudanese region, from the Euphrates and Tigris. And they went further than that because the first pharaoh of Egypt, Pharaoh Narmer, which I'll do a video on that in a separate time. Pharaoh Narmer was Nimrod. His full name was Narmer Marad, right? And he was the one that connected the Egypts. But that'll be a video for another day. But it says the Kushites stretched from the Euphrates to the Tigris. That means they were over places like Turkey, Syria, Iraq, because the Euphrates River is the longest river in Western Asia. And notice it said to the Euphrates and Tigris. Well, what's in the Euphrates? What countries are by the Euphrates? Turkey, Syria, Iraq. And what countries are near the Tigris? Iran, Iraq, Turkey, and Syria, right? So let's keep going. At an early period, there was a stream of migration of Kushites from Ethiopia, properly so called, through Arabia. What's Arabia? Arabia consists of the Arabian Peninsula, Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, southern Iraq, Jordan, Saudi Arabia. The Sinai Peninsula was once considered a part of Arabia in the classical era. So he took over that whole part too. Once again, you're going to find out that he took over the whole East. But we're going to focus on India, which is coming up. Babylonia, I believe, what is that? Modern day Iraq? Yeah. Yahawah, Iraq. Babylonia, right? The Babylonian Empire, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Israel, right? Iran, because it also says that he took over Persia. For those of you who know, Persia is what they call Iran. Where we at? Babylonia. Yeah, Iran, Persian, right? Which brings us to the part that he took over that I mentioned, and the reason I'm doing this video, which is Western India. Right? To Western India. Right? Through Western India. Who are these? The Kushites. This is how far they spread. Oh, and I should know also that it was over parts of Egypt. If I didn't say it already, Egypt, because the Sinai Peninsula is in Egypt and borders Israel. So, anyway, so it said Western India. We're gonna go down to here, and it says Nimrod was a great Kushite chief. That's what we're talking about. He conquered the Akkadians, a Turanian race already settled in Mesopotamia, and founded his kingdom. The Kushites mingled with the Akkads and so forming the Chaldean nation. Right? So they formed the Chaldean nation. That being said, let's get to the point. Now I'm going to go through a lot of pages in the book, but I'm not really going to go too informative on that book. I did so in another video you guys can watch called "This Historian Proves That the Original Buddha Was Black," and I went into even more information. This I'm really just going to focus on the same pages, and I'm going to add more and prove that he's Nimrod. And this historian is going to say that he's Nimrod as well, an historian born in the 1700s. And by the way, it said the Kushites were in Western India. Modern Western India would be considered the largest city of them would be Mumbai, right? Mumbai, and Punjab and things like that. Other states sometimes included, Anyway, so we're going to be looking at Godfrey Higgins. He was an English magistrate and landowner, a prominent advocate for social reform. He was an historian, an antiquarian. He wrote concerning ancient myths. He was born in 1772, died in 1833, and he published a 2-volume series book known as Anacalypsis. And I'm going to read these different parts showing that the original Buddha was black and had African features, right? And the reason I'm mentioning that he had African features is because, like I told you, the reason he had African features is because the first original Buddha is Nimrod in the Bible, right? Because Nimrod had that much influence, right? And we're not even going to get into the Tower of Babel really into this video, but that'll be another video, because once again, I'm going to do a playlist on Nimrod. But anyway, so that being said, how far are we in there? 9 minutes in. I got to talk kind of slow because of this mouth abscess, but bear with me. So we're going to go to page 40, and it says, the religion of Buddha of India is well known to have been very ancient. In the most ancient temples scattered throughout Asia, where his worship is yet continued, he is found black as jet, like Kush means black. He's found black as jet, with the flat face, thick lips, and curly hair of the Negro. Several statues of him may be met with him in the Museum of the East India Company. Right? So he's letting you know right there. First of all, it's found in East India. Letting you know he was black as jet and he had the hair of a Negro and thick lips and a flat face. Right? There are 2 exemplars of him brooding on the face of the deep upon a coiled serpent. To what time are we to allot this Negro? He will be proved to have been prior to the god called Krishna. He must have been prior to or contemporaneous with the Black Empire. Who's that Black Empire we're talking about? The Kushites. The Black Empire, supposed by Sir William Jones to have flourished at Zidon, right? And I broke down what Zidon was in the other video. This video here, the historian proves the original Buddha was black. But where was that? The religion of this Negro god is found by the ruins of his temples and other circumstances to have been spread over an immense extent of country, even to the remotest parts of Britain, and to have been professed by devotees inconceivably numerous. So a black empire, right, had a Negro god, which is Buddha, and this god, which is no god, it was a man. This man is Nimrod, right? And we're going to page 48 now. It says, Mr. Wilsford, in his treatise on Egypt and the Nile and the Asiatic researchers, informs us that many very ancient statues of the god Buddha in India have crisp, curly hair with flat noses and thick lips, and adds, nor can it be reasonably doubted that a race of Negroes formerly had power and preeminence in India. Right? So, he tells you again, it cannot be reasonably doubted, meaning it was a fact, that a race of Negroes formerly had power and preeminence in India. Now, really, it was, once again, it was Kushites, it was Ethiopians, right? They had preeminence over India, right? And that Negro Buddha that they see, that is Nimrod, right? And you're going to find out, matter of fact, I'll go to it now, just for people that say, I thought, because I know someone's going to come in the comments, I thought Buddha was Siddhartha Gautama, right? Because that's what I learned in high school. Right, let's go to this real quick. The Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, most commonly referred to as Buddha, right? In the 6th to 5th century BCE, South Asia founded Buddhism, right? Well, for those of you that don't know, Siddhartha Gautama was actually not the first Buddha, right? This is from Britannica.com. It says the historical Buddha, which is this guy, Siddhartha Gautama. The historical Buddha is regarded as neither the first nor the last Buddha to appear in the world. So this guy was not the first Buddha, right? According to some traditions, he's the 7th Buddha. According to another, he's the 25th. According to yet another one, he is the 4th, right? And I'm here to let you know the first Buddha was Nimrod, right? Y'all can go into that for more information, but I just wanted to touch on that real quick because I know someone's going to type in the comments, what that Siddhartha Gautama was Buddha. And, well, there's your answer to that. But anyway, so, nor can it be reasonably, back to page 48 of Anacalypsis, nor can it be reasonably doubted that a race of Negroes formerly had power and preeminence in India. This is confirmed by Mr. Maurice, who says the figures in the Hindu caverns are of a very different character from the present race of Hindus. Their countenances are broad and full, the nose flat, and the lips, particularly the under lip, remarkably thick. This is again confirmed by Colonel Fitzclarence. So these are multiple individuals. Wilsford, Mr. Maurice, Colonel Fitz. They're all mentioning these black people, right? That used to be in India. In the journal of his journey from India, and Maurice, in the first volume of his Indian Antiquity, states that the figures in the caves in India and in the temples of Egypt are absolutely the same as given by Bruce, Nebar, and etc. Meaning they all look like so-called black people. Now we're going to go to page 49 and 50. Right? It says the remains of architecture and sculptures in India, which I mention here as mere monuments of antiquity, nor as specimens of ancient art, seems to prove an early connection between this country and Africa. So there was an early connection between India and Africa, right? And particularly Ethiopia, like I keep saying. The various temples and images of Buddha and the idols which are continually dug up at Gaya or in its vicinity. Page 50, Anacalypsis. The letters on many of those monuments appear, as I have before intimated, partly of Indian and partly of Abyssinian or Ethiopic origin. And Abyssinia was another name for Ethiopia in the ancient world. I think the Greeks gave it that name. And all those indubitable facts may induce no ill-founded opinion that Ethiopia and Hindustan were peopled or colonized by the same extraordinary race. In confirmation of which it may be added that the mountaineers of Bengal and Bahar can hardly be distinguished in some of their features, particularly their lips and noses, from the modern Abyssinians, whom the Arabs call the children of Kush. Right? So he said Ethiopia and Hindustan. Ethiopia as in, Africa, Ethiopia. And Hindustan is just India, for those that were wondering. Right? Anyway, and the ancient Hindus, according to Strabo, differed in nothing from the Africans, but in the straightness and smoothness of their hair, right? So he said the Hindus didn't even differentiate from the Africans, the ancient Hindus. While that of others was crisp and woolly, a difference proceeding chiefly, if not entirely, from the respective humidity of dryness of their atmospheres. Yeah, the straight-haired, dark-skinned Indians he's talking about are known as the Dravidians, right? Which can now really be found in South India region, right? And I went over the Dravidians when I went into this, so y'all can go watch that for more information. The historian proves the original Buddhists, but I went into that. But anyway, where we at? Are Ethiopians, by which clearly meant certain nations of India, where frequently see figures of Buddha with curled hair, apparently designed in representation of in its natural state. Again, Sir William Jones says Mr. Bruce and Mr. Bryant have proved that the Greeks gave the appellation of Indians to the nations of Africa, right? So they applied African to the Indians as well in ancient times, and to the people among whom we now live. I shall account for this in the following work. All right, so let's continue. Go to page 209. What time are we doing? 16 minutes, bet. It says, but yet there is one circumstance of very great importance which is peculiar to Buddha and forms a discriminating mark between him and Krishna, which is that he is continually described as a Negro, right? Not only with a black complexion, in which he agrees with Krishna, but with woolly hair and a flat face. Mr. Krizar observes that the black Buddha with frizzled or curled hair attaches himself to the same time to the three systems into which the religion of India divides itself. Mr. Moore on his woolly head says some statues of Buddha certainly exhibit thick Ethiopian lips, but all woolly hair, there is something mysterious and unexplained connected with the hair of this and only of this Indian deity, right? And that's because, like I told you, that is Nimrod, right? And these are Ethiopian lips, right? Thick Ethiopian lips. Really, these are just so-called black features, right? A lot of so-called black people have thick lips. Not all, but a lot. We'll go to page 351. It says, the reader will recollect what was said in the first book respecting the two Ethiopias. So he's saying there's two different Ethiopias. Why? Because the Ethiopians bred out and conquered the known world, like I told you. The opinion of Sir William Jones and Mr. Maurice that a nation of blacks, check this out, a nation of blacks formerly ruled all over all Asia. So a nation of blacks formerly ruled over all Asia. That's what it says. Mind you, this is an historian writing this account. And now I think, and the other circumstances where the black color occurred in various ways, and now I think he would be prepared for a few questions, which I have been from the beginning, paving the way. May not this nation have been a nation of black Buddhists? May not the peaceable religion of the curly-head Buddha have pervaded and kept in peace for many generations of which we have no history, the whole of Asia? And Nimrod conquered all of the East. Right, I'll prove that in a further part of this video, or I'll go into that. May not the people professing it have been the Pali or the Palestini, talking about the Palestinians, or Mr. Maurice, or Sir William Jones, or the Shepherd Kings, or Kushites, of whom so much has been said. And it says that blacks ruled over all Asia. Well, there's still black people in Asia, right? Afro-Asians, they're all over. You have the Yahawah people of the Andaman Islands in India, right? These are so-called black people in Asia, all right, on the islands off of India. Then you have the Sidi people, right? The Shadi, the Sidis, the Sidhi, or the Habshi are an ethnic group inhabiting India and Pakistan. They're primarily descended from the Bantu peoples. Yeah, these people are Israelites right here, right? These people. I actually saw a video where there were some Sidhi people in India waking up to the fact that they were Israelites, which goes into a scripture where it says, I will pull them from Elam and from Cush, right? Yeah, those are Israelites waking up. And there's also a guy, I'll probably just do a video on the Israelites of India, but there's also a guy who made an account of the black Jews that he saw in India. But anyway, yeah, these people, and they got there, allegedly, they say, from southeastern Africa and Ethiopia, most whom come from the subcontinent through the Arab slave trade, right? That's what they allege. And it could be the case, or these could be the leftover remnants of people that were already there. But, so you got the Sidhi people, and yes, they are an oppressed black tribe of India. Then you have the Ada people, which are the aboriginal people of the Philippines. The Ada people. You have the Semang people, which are on the Malay Peninsula. These are the aboriginal peoples, right? In the Malay Peninsula, in the southern provinces of Thailand, right? The Semang people. Then you have the Manik people, ethnic group of Thailand, right? The Manik people. And it just keeps going. The Negritos in Southeast Asia, Semang, Mamanwa, Ada, Agta, Tomin Ko, Batak, Ati, Tumandak, Batak, Akta, Manik, Semang, all these people, man. The so-called African natives. Now, they actually did a DNA test on the Negritos, and they found that the Negritos are the least related to Africans than any other race on the planet, right? So don't always just assume that when you see a so-called black person that they come from Africa. But I done did a video on that in time past. And before I go any further on that, speaking of the fact that there were black people in preeminence in India, even Jin Lee, who was a Chinese geneticist and academic administrator, Jin Lee, who has a master's degree, he also made the statement. Hold on, let me put this here real quick. You also have the Kunlun Nu, which were dark-skinned people on China, right? And they were at odds with China. They even had a poem written about them, a tale written about them, a romance novel written by Pei Jing during the Tang Dynasty in 960 A.D. about a Negrito slave who had extraordinary physical abilities. But anyway, so this guy, this geneticist, back to him, Chinese geneticist Jin Lee, who has a master's degree. Did I not include this? Oh, man, I didn't include his work. But y'all can look this guy up. I didn't include it, but I included it in the other video. He mentions that the original people inhabiting China were so-called black people that he called Africans, right? I didn't include his excerpt, which y'all can look up Jin Lee and type in Africans in China or something like that. It'll pop up. But anyway, moving on, page 396. It says, I must now once more bring back the attention of my reader to the curly-haired, flat-faced, thick-lipped, black-skinned Buddha. Almost forgotten, for these singularities we have not yet attempted to give any reasons. This Negro God cannot have been the only Negro east of the Indus. So he's saying there's no way that there's just one Negro who began to be worshipped in India, right? Without some cause. On the subject, credible history is silent. Let us try if we can form a theory. Yet they're silent on the matter. Then this guy, back in the 1700s, or really the 1800s when he wrote this, he stated that I suppose the original man was originally a Negro. I went over that before. Anyway, page 397, Apocalypse. He says, when the equinoctial sun entered Taurus, he found it man in India, like the first Buddha, a Negro. When he entered Aries, he found him black. It is true, but with the alkaline nose and long hair of the handsome Krishna, yeah, the Dravidians. The god of wood, a stone of gold, stood still. This man in the space of 2,160 years, perhaps of peace and prosperity, had materially improved. Not so the curly-haired man of Africa. Everything tended to improvement of the former. Everything is stopped the improvement of the latter. In the African Ethiopia, he remains a curly-headed black. Yeah, he deems these features of straight hair and narrow noses as superior features, but that's just his racism seeping in, especially in the time period that he was in. But really ain't got much to say on that. My point's kind of made on that matter. Oh yeah, this really goes back to what I was kind of telling you. That Negro Buddha. This also goes back to telling you that Nimrod is really an inspiration for a lot of these pagan gods that came up over the years. Because you got to remember, in the Tower of Babel, he had all them nations, right? They all spoke one language, and they all were into one type of I don't want to say ethnicity, but they were all into one type of melting pot, so to speak. But let's just go to this part so I can go to that. Page 399. In aid of his theory, a reconsideration of foregoing pages will show that we have found a black complexion or something relating to it whenever we have approached to the origin of the nations. Right? So he's always saying the original was black. Alma Mater, the goddess Motamamia, the founders of the oracles, the Memons, or first idols, were always black. Venus, Juno, Jupiter, Apollo, Bacchus, Hercules, Ashtaroth, Adonis, Horus, Apis, Osiris, Ammon. In short, all the wood and stone deities were black. The images remain as they were first made in very remote times. So he's telling you that all the original depictions of the gods were black. Right? So I'm gonna get another guy, Gerald Massey. He was an English poet. He was a spiritualist, and he was into ancient Egypt. He was born in 1828. He wrote a book called The Book of Beginnings. We're going to go to page 18. And he's going to say, the black race is the most ancient, and that Africa is the primordial home. That's his opinion. It is not necessary to show that the first colonizers of India were Negroes. But it is certain that the black Buddha of India was imaged in the Negroid type in the black Negro god, whether called Buddha or Sut Nasi. We have a datum they carry in their color, the proof of their origin. The people who first fashioned and worshiped the divine image in the Negroid mode of humanity must, according to all knowledge of human nature, have been Negroes themselves. For the blackness is not merely mystical. The features and the hair of Buddha belong to the black race, and Nasi is the Negro name. The genetrix represented as the De Motamema, the Diana of Ephesus, is found as a black figure, nor is the hue mystical only, for the features are as Negroid as were those of the black Isis in Egypt. So the Diana of Ephesus was originally Negroid as well. I went over the first Buddha. I went over that history, that the guy that tells you Siddhartha Gautama, he was not the first Buddha. They even say he's not regarded as the first Buddha. They say he's the 7th, even to the 25th. Like I told you, the first Buddha was Nimrod. Which, here we go here on Anacalypsis, page 554. He's about to say what I've been saying, which is that Buddha is Nimrod. I can have no doubt that Mr. Townsend is right and that Nimrod was Balarama, an avatar, probably Mahabali, or an avatar of Buddha. Nimrod and Balarama were both grandsons of the sons Menu. So Nimrod is an avatar of Buddha. Or really, Buddha is an avatar of Nimrod. Right? And let's get a couple more on that before I go wind down. I'm also going to show some images of the ancient Buddhas too. We're going to go to a guy named Alexander Hislop. He's a guy that spoke out against the Trinity. And the Trinity is pagan, by the way. I might do a video on that another time. But we're going to go to page 25. He's talking about Nimrod. Nimrod is a mighty king. Nimrod has a kingdom as Nimrod himself. Right? He built 4 cities, all this. This guy really goes into the history of Nimrod. But we're going to the highlight portion for the sake of time. Man, my mouth's starting to hurt. So, Ninus strengthened the greatness of his acquired dominion by continued possession. And Ninus is another name for Nimrod, right? He became known as Ninus. Ninus strengthened the greatness of his acquired dominion by continued possession. Having subdued, therefore, his neighbors, when by an accession of forces being still further strengthened, he went forth against other tribes, and every new victory paved the way for another. He subdued all the peoples of the east, right? So Nimrod, who was an Ethiopian, subdued all the peoples of the east. That's why I told you he ruled over all the east. Right? Thus then Nimrod, or Ninus, was the builder of Nineveh, and the origin of the name of that city as the habitation of Ninus is accounted for. Right? Page 35, he says, now Nimrod, as the son of Cush, was black. In other words, was a Negro. Right? Then we go here, page 57. He says, as the great god Buddha is generally represented in China as a Negro. So in China, the original Buddha was a Negro as well. So before I get out of here, I'm gonna show y'all some images of the false god Buddha, which is really just Nimrod, and so-called black people's hair. Now these are some depictions of Buddha. You see the thick lips, flat face, the gauges in his ears, and he has the Negro-like hair, the spirals, right? The spirally hair. This is a picture of Lupita Nyong'o from the first Black Panther movie. Same hair, literally the exact same hair, right here, boom. Right? Here's an African man. Here's a statue of Buddha. Thick lips, same ears, all that, right? And this hairstyle, by the way, what's known as Bantu knots. Right? This hairstyle is known as the Bantu knots. Right? No longer popular in spite of its utility for hygiene and ease of use. What is now known as the Bantu knot hairstyle. Right? Now here's even a picture of a person of color in the European history. Look at his hair and look at the Buddha's hair. They have the same, once again, spirally like hair. Right? More statues of Black Buddha. Right? Clear as day. So-called African features. Right? Once again, Bantu knots, another African features. So that'll be conclusion of the matter. Buddha is Nimrod in the Bible, right? So, you know, I had to get this out there. Just have to just struggle through the pain. Anyway, with that, I say once again, peace to the 12. I want to give all praise and honor and glory to the Heavenly Father, Most High Yahawah, in the name of His only begotten Son, yahawashi. Yahawah is the name of the Heavenly Father, who is commonly known as God, and yahawashi is the Savior of the nation of Israel, who is commonly known as Jesus Christ. I want to say shalom, which means peace. People listen and learn. You brothers doing this work, truth, sincerity, answering elders that's been doing this thing before me. Shalom means peace. I'm going to go ahead and get up on out of here. I'm done talking. Peace. Gone.